Hi everyone, I'm Amy Lee Miller, and this video is for anyone out there who might be feeling a little or a lot lost. Know that life gets better. Wait until you hear what I used to be like. Okay, so not everybody would have known that I was a mess, but my parents did. And I think actually I forgot about it until recently when my dad reminded me in a very sweet way. He was telling me how proud he is of me, as he often does. Thank you, Dad. And he said, you know, when you were younger, I thought, man, Amy's going to be such a mess. It made me laugh. It was so sweet. And of course, I didn't know that he felt that way at the time, but it was true. I was a mess. I was very emotional, and I would make rash decisions, I think as a means of trying to express myself and searching for fulfillment. I dropped out of college twice before completing my degree. I told my parents I was going to read books and become a millionaire. They were thrilled, but that's actually going to happen. And before I dropped out, I would often skip class to go work out, priorities. And after college, because I did go back and finish later, I decided to pick a city I had never been to that was very far away from anybody I knew, Seattle, and move there without telling anyone. I actually left my dad a note on the kitchen counter. Oh my God. I had moved in with him for a few weeks because my lease was up and I wasn't sure of my next steps. So I left him a note on the counter. I took a jar of peanut butter and a spoon for the road, and I was on my way. I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to change my mind. I did, of course, tell my boyfriend at the time, who was sweet enough to take me back when I returned 3.5 weeks later because I was having anxiety at being so far away. Is anybody listening? This is hilarious. No, nobody's listening. Let's see what else. Oh, I also exercised very poor judgment in my 20s in deciding to buy a condo that was not a good property and obviously not a good investment. And I had no money and had just gotten my first sales job in a commission-only role. Like, what? Somehow, through all of this, I was always very disciplined with my work ethic and my workout regimen. They both gave me a sense of purpose and fulfillment that I didn't otherwise have, and they helped me to burn up all of my energy, which I have always had too much of. Having a lot of energy is great. However, it can be a problem when you have nowhere to put it. Sort of like a kid who's acting up in class because they're understimulated and need more of a challenge. I had all of this creative energy and no direction to funnel it. And this contributed to pretty significant depression for me starting at a very young age. I didn't know what the problem was or how to tell anyone. I just knew I didn't feel happy. All growing up, I felt uncomfortable and like I didn't quite fit in. I had friends. I was always well liked and invited to all of the sleepovers and things like that. I was actually quite silly and the class clown in elementary school. I had a boyfriend of my choosing. I would, on the first day of class, I would literally look around, pick out who was going to be my boyfriend, tell him about it, and he would be. I was quite bossy. Why doesn't it work like that now? Anyhow, in middle school, I changed, becoming self-conscious and insecure, but that's maybe for another video. So all through middle school and high school, it was very rare that I actually felt connected with people. Even when I was hanging out with friends, I wasn't really having fun. And I remember one time after hanging out with a group of friends in high school, I was feeling particularly disconnected. And trying to make sense of how I was feeling, I asked one of my girlfriends if she had had fun. And she said yes. And I just remember feeling confused as to why I didn't. So after high school, I went to college, which, as I mentioned before, I dropped out of twice. And I don't know what it's like now if books are online or whatever, but then you would buy each textbook for like $100 or $200, and then when you were finished with the class, you would sell them back and get like $2. So I dropped out, sold my books back. Then I changed my mind, re-enrolled, bought them back at full price. Then I dropped out again and sold them back. I was a mess. I did go back and finish later. Something I've known since I was a little girl was that I needed to live in New York City. I needed the energy of a big city to match my energy. I decided this when I was 8 years old. I remember the moment asking my mom if we could please move to New York. And of course, you know what she said, "We'll see." And it wasn't until about 10 years ago, after I moved here, that I actually started to feel happy in my life. That's a lot of life to go through unhappy, but that's okay because life gets better. If you're feeling lost or unhappy, first know that it's okay. Take a deep breath and tell yourself it's okay. And then take comfort in the awareness that your unhappiness is just a big clue letting you know that you need to make a change and that there are greater things meant for you. I have another video on this where I talk about discomfort and how it's actually a great thing because it pushes us further to where we're supposed to be. And often, until that discomfort gets big enough, we stay right where we are, unhappy. Okay, so what's the first step in actually doing something about it? I'll tell you, and it's actually easier than you think. It is listening to yourself. Sit with the uncomfortable feeling without reaching for something to try to feel better and see what comes up, what it is you truly want for yourself. Ask yourself the question, if I could have anything, what would I have? If I could do anything, what would I do? The secret is you can. However, first you have to ask yourself. Jordan Peterson talks about this too. I'm a big fan of his. In one of his videos, he says exactly that. You can have whatever it is you want, but you have to know what it is. Now, after I moved, it wasn't overnight happiness. However, I felt stimulated. I felt at home, and I had never felt that way before. Not in any city, not in any house, not in any apartment. I just didn't. So when I moved here, I had the ever-changing environment of the city, which I love, and I had a place finally where I could burn up all of my energy. It takes a lot of energy to live here. The walking everywhere, up and down the subway stairs, and like it or not, taking in all of the energy of the people around you. I loved it. And then I started to let myself again explore my creative interests, and I was on my path. Now, sometimes when we're on our path, things happen and we feel like we get knocked off. We haven't been knocked off. It's just a purposeful challenge to help make us stronger. And you can do it. You can overcome life's challenges and you can have whatever it is you want. Whatever you want for yourself is meant for you. Otherwise, the thought never would have come into your mind. When I look back at the pivotal moments in my life right before I made a decision that propelled me in a much better direction, that's exactly what happened. I was feeling unhappy, I sat with the discomfort, and I let it come to me what it was that I needed, and then I took action. The more we practice this, the faster we become at it, so we don't have to feel so miserable before we finally get to the point where we're going to make a change. Ask yourself what it is you want, then get excited about it. Get curious about how it's going to happen. With that momentum, you will get where it is you want to be. I'm Amy Lee Miller, reminding you what I know you already know, which is yes, you can.